We are back, and I went ahead and added another layer here with ink. I used another Lindy's Stamp Gang ink through this stencil, and you can see more evidence of that there. I wanted there to be a little more color and pattern, and I wanted to tell you about some other inks that have mica in them. I knew there's a Tattered Angels, and I'm sure that there are others out there, but I had such a large supply of the Lindy's Stamp Gang, I've never ordered any others. When I ran out of certain colors, I got an Adirondack dye-based and a Dilutions dye-based. Now they don't have a fixative in them, so they are definitely going to react, and there's also no mica in them. And speaking of reaction, I want to go ahead and show you just a little bit about how different alcohol ink acts on a sealed surface. You already saw that because I made sure that all parts were covered with paint or glue or something. It covered up with some sort of thing that was going to seal that up, create fewer holes. And then, so I have this tiny little piece of paper next to me, but I think I'm just going to show you on this white paper. So you can see it bleeds out and spreads, and it doesn't flow quite so much because that paper is absorbing it very, very quickly. So just kind of, it moves out a little bit, but it's not going to move the way it does on a sealed surface. You saw how quickly it flowed. Not to say that you can't use it on paper, but it's just going to behave differently. I guess plain paper, I should say. So I'll show you on this little tiny piece. And this is vintage paper, so it's generally more porous. See, I'm moving this around manually to get it to move, but you can see it doesn't quite act the same. But now I can use this later, glue it down onto something, and have more color and pattern and texture. Our next step, I'm going to use this circle. It's an old takeout lid, and I've used it as a paint palette quite a bit. It's going to be the basis for the gesso circle that I'll use for the mandala. And I'm going to go ahead and use the Pitt Artist pen so I can see it pretty well. So I don't want to torque around and hurt myself. So I am centering it. You don't have to. You have many choices. So it's just going to work best for me to have it right in here in the middle so I can show you more. But I'm estimating right and left and top and bottom where the center is. And then I'm holding that down, holding my pen straight up and down and gently pressing against it. And then just moving it on the other side when I run it into my hand. So now I know where to paint inside. I'm actually going to just turn over my plastic lid and use it as my palette now. So I still have wet paint on the other one. And in this case, I want to use the gesso. Now, gesso is different than just regular white paint. You can use a matte white paint and it's probably going to do a whole lot of the same thing. But I chose gesso. Initially when I did this, I thought it was totally going to cover it up, but then I got this really cool effect with all of the things that bled through. So now I'm doing it on purpose. But gesso has a chalky substance in it, and primarily it's used as a primer. It's used to coat your canvas, your artboard, your wood block, whatever you're working on. It seals up all those little holes and makes your paint go further. That's probably going to be enough. I mean, more than enough. In there. Found a paintbrush that I needed to dunk in the water so it doesn't get all dried up. And I thought I already had my brush out to do this, but I guess not. Okay, so I'm using this round brush, and that is actually going to be pretty good for helping me to go along the edge of this circle. You can already see how that's coming through. I'm just judging where my hand feels the most comfortable and getting that edge. And you see how I got this little bloop there, but it doesn't matter. I'm just going to cover the whole thing anyway. And it's really funny that my husband played me one of the Bob Ross music compilation inspiration, art inspiration things, which is great, and also funny, where he says, yeah, those mistakes, there are no mistakes. Let's call them clouds, happy little clouds. Also, did you know that Bob Ross had a perm? I don't know why that came up in my brain, but maybe because I saw another thing today where it said perms are making a comeback, and then I instantly think of Bob Ross because he said, I didn't really want to keep my hair like that, but it became part of the brand. So again, I guess he went with it. In any case, it definitely was a distinguishing mark. We knew who that was. see how fun that is, how that color is just bleeding through, and it's got a life of its own. You'll notice that in the first video I filled in with color with marker and some watercolors, but generally I don't do that with my mandalas, just because I find the drawing part a lot more satisfying, and I like creating color this way where I don't know exactly what's going to happen, and you get this variation and fun surprises. Okay, so I'm going to leave it right there and come back when it's dry.